That building's had no power for over a decade. So why were the lights on? And why did it look like someone was moving inside? I used to work for a small company that specialized in prepping old commercial buildings for renovation. Nothing glamorous, mostly clearing out junk, basic inspections, making sure the place was safe enough for contractors to come in. Every now and then we'd get assigned overnight shifts. Just one guy at the site to make sure no one broke in or started fires or something. Most of the time, it was boring as hell. I'd sit around with a flashlight and a radio, maybe a book if I remembered to bring one. But there was one job I got, a sign that still sticks with me to this day. I never told anyone the full story, and to be honest, I still don't know exactly what happened. It was an old government building, way out on the edge of this industrial zone that had basically turned into a ghost town. 3 floors, brick exterior, broken windows. Looked like no one had touched it since the early 2000s. The company that bought the place wanted to convert it into office space and needed someone on site overnight for a week before the contractors showed up. They gave me the key, told me the place had no power, no water, and had been vacant since 2006. I didn't think twice about it. Just another overnight gig. I got there the first night around 9 p.m. It was already pitch black outside. Inside was worse, silent and stale, the kind of silence that presses on your ears. There was a folding chair and table left in the front lobby for me. I set up my little portable radio, turned on my flashlight, and started doing my usual rounds. First, 2 floors were typical. Dust, broken glass, trash, graffiti. Most of it was harmless. But on the 3rd floor, I saw something that gave me pause. There was this massive spray-painted message across one of the hallway walls. Big black letters that read, "Still here, still listening." It looked fresh, not wet, but way too bold to have been sitting there for 17 years. Still, I figured some local punks had broken in not too long ago. I finished my walkthrough, went back downstairs, and passed the night with the radio buzzing softly and the occasional creak from the wind pushing against the old frame. The second night, things got strange. Around midnight, I was doing another pass through the 2nd floor when I noticed a faint flickering light coming from down the hallway. It was soft, orangish, looked like a weak bulb trying to stay alive. I figured maybe someone had a flashlight or lantern in there, thought maybe a squatter was hiding out. But when I got closer, I realized it was coming from one of the rooms. The door was cracked open, and the light was clearly coming from inside. I pushed it open. The ceiling light was on. It wasn't bright, just a weak glow, kind of buzzing softly, like an old fluorescent bulb. But it was on. And that didn't make any sense. The entire building had no electricity. I'd seen the breaker box. It was gutted. No wiring, no nothing. I stared at it for a few seconds, then reached for the switch on the wall. Before I even touched it, the light flickered, then shut off. Dead silent. I didn't investigate any further. I backed out of the room, went downstairs, and stayed in the lobby until morning. I didn't sleep at all. Night 3, I brought a camera. One of those cheap handheld ones with night vision. I wanted proof in case it happened again. Maybe there was still a live circuit hidden somewhere. Maybe I wasn't losing my mind. For the first couple of hours, everything was normal, but just after 1 a.m., I heard footsteps above me, on the 3rd floor. They were soft, uneven, like someone limping. I froze, turned off the radio, and listened. The footsteps moved slowly down the hall. Then they stopped, then started again. I was certain I was alone. I'd locked the front door, same as every night. There were no open windows, no other entrances. I picked up the camera and crept upstairs. My flashlight was off, but the hallway was faintly lit from the same room as before. The light was back on, but this time the door wasn't cracked. It was fully shut. I stood at the end of the hall, camera rolling, just watching. I didn't go near it. I didn't need to. As I stood there, I saw something move. Just a shadow. sliding across the far wall inside that room just behind the light. Too tall, too thin. I didn't wait around. I went back downstairs, locked myself in the front lobby, and stayed wide awake until the sun came up. The next day, I told my supervisor there might still be power running to the building. He just shrugged and said, "Could be old wiring. Don't worry about it." He knew I wasn't buying that. I skipped the fourth night, called out sick, but the guy who replaced me? He called me in the middle of his shift, sometime around 3 a.m. He sounded out of breath. "Hey, did anything weird happen when you were here?" I asked what he meant. "There's someone up on the third floor. I've seen him twice now, just walking past the hallway, but when I go up to check, nobody's there." I told him to stay downstairs and keep the radio on. He was quiet for a bit, then said, "I don't think he's walking. I don't hear footsteps anymore. I think he's just floating." The line cut off after that. The next morning I showed up early. I just wanted to make sure the guy was all right. He was sitting outside the building on the curb. Looked like he hadn't slept at all. Eyes wide. Silent. When I asked what happened, he just shook his head, stood up, and walked away. Didn't say a word. Never came back for his stuff. That was the last night anyone stayed in that building. The company canceled the job, boarded up the doors, and left it. It's probably still there. Still empty. Still quiet. But every now and then, when I'm driving past that old district, I slow down near the intersection where the building sits. And sometimes if I look up at the top floor, I still see a faint flicker of light. And if I watch too long, I swear, I see something standing in the window, tall, motionless, still here, still listening. If you're reading this and you ever work alone at night, don't turn around when you hear it. Just leave, walk fast, don't look back, and never go back for your stuff. That was the last message my coworker Jenna ever sent to the group, chat before she disappeared. It was a Monday night about a year ago. Jenna worked custodial at a small industrial park outside Missoula, Montana. Mostly empty warehouse offices, a couple light manufacturing units. She was assigned to Building 6, which had been mostly vacant for months, except for one company that ran a 24-hour parts assembly operation. That night, only one unit had lights on, and only Jenna was scheduled to clean it. She never came back. Her phone was found outside the building's back door the next morning, screen cracked and battery dead. And yeah, that text. It was sent around 2:42 a.m. The building's internal security cameras conveniently stopped recording at 2:41. No one has seen her since. My name's Travis. I worked security at that same industrial park. What I'm about to tell you happened 6 months after Jenna vanished. And I'll be honest, I never believed the stories. Until that night. It was late November, bitter cold. I was covering night shift for a buddy. From 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., I patrolled the entire park alone. Just me, a flashlight, radio, and a company-issued Ford Escape. Everything was fine until I got the call at 1:17 a.m. Motion alert. Building 6, Unit C. I remember thinking, it's always that damn building. We'd had reports of alarms there before, but it was usually just a rat triggering a sensor. I wasn't eager to go in, but protocol's protocol. I pulled up to Building 6. The whole place looked like a horror movie set. Frosted. Windows, no lights, the wind rattling the old metal siding. Inside, it was pitch dark. I stepped in and swept my flashlight across the unit. The place was empty. Just stacked crates, old shelves, dusty workstations. Then I heard something. Footsteps. Not boots, not shoes. Bare feet. Fast, light, and wrong. I called out, "Hello? Security?" No answer. Just silence. I moved toward the sound, scanning with my flashlight. Then I saw it. A figure. Pale, hunched, standing at the far end of the hallway between the shelving units. I thought it was a transient at first, someone high or sick. "Sir, you need to leave. This is private property." No response. I took a step forward. The figure didn't move. I raised the flashlight. Its face caught the beam for half a second. It wasn't right. Its eyes were open too wide. No color in them, just white. Its jaw hung slack, like it had been broken and never healed right. Its skin looked melted, like wax halfway through burning. Then it ran, not away, from me, straight into the dark. I backed up and almost tripped over a bucket, called it in. The radio crackled, but the dispatcher couldn't hear me. Static drowned out my voice. When I turned back, the figure was gone. I should have left then, but I didn't. I had to check the office in the back of the unit. There was still a faint chance someone was squatting back there. The hallway was colder now. My breath fogged up in the air. I turned the corner, and there it was, a handprint. On the inside of the glass office window, but smeared, as if someone had slid down it while screaming. Next to it, something had been scratched into the drywall. "Help me!" The letters weren't written, they were carved, with fingernails, some of them still stuck in the grooves. I ran. Outside, I threw up next to my car. I didn't even radio it in. I just left. Filed a vague report and took 2 weeks off after that. I thought it was over, but a few weeks later, a janitor named Miguel went missing. Last seen cleaning Unit B of Building 6. Guess what we found in his mop bucket? His radio still on? Playing garbled static? And inside one of the cleaning closets, scratched into the wood? Don't turn around. I didn't go back to work. But I couldn't stop thinking about Jenna's last message. So, I did something stupid. I contacted her sister, asked if I could look through Jenna's things. She agreed. And in her notes app, buried between random shopping lists and playlists, was a file titled Thursday 2:30 a.m. Inside she wrote this: "It's not a man. I don't know what it is. But it follows you if you look too long. It copies how people look. But something's always wrong. Like it's guessing. I saw it watching me from the mirror in the break room. When I turned, it was gone. But the mirror still showed it. I know how crazy this sounds. It lives in the dark corners. I think it waits. And it knows when you're alone. Please, don't go there alone. Don't look into the mirrors. Don't follow the sounds. And if you hear your name whispered from behind you, don't turn around." After that, I moved states, took a day job, never worked alone again. I don't know what happened to Jenna or Miguel or the others who went missing from that place, but I do know one thing: that building was condemned 3 months later. A fire, they said, electrical fault. But there was no fire damage, just black stains on the walls and floors, and every mirror in the place shattered from the inside. No one goes near Building 6 now. It's still standing, empty. But every once in a while, a motion alert pings the old system. Unit C around 2:42 a.m. They told me it was just a technical glitch, that the camera feed must have looped or lagged. But I know what I saw. It blinked. At exactly 3:16 a.m., the shape standing in the middle of the empty work zone turned its head and blinked. 2 slow, deliberate eyelids over eyes that shouldn't have existed at all. And then it was gone. I worked security on the night shift at a remote construction site for a federal utility project somewhere out in the desert. That's as much as I can say without giving away too much, because if this gets out, they'll probably make sure I disappear the same way. The job was mostly boring. Empty scaffolding, parked earth movers, long slabs of steel waiting for welding crews. I'd sit in the small guard shack and monitor 8 cameras on a split screen. It wasn't unusual to see animals, coyotes, jackrabbits, the occasional owl. What was unusual was seeing something still. On the 3rd night of my 2nd week, I caught something standing in the wide-open clearing on camera 6. At first, I thought it was a person, maybe a surveyor or a drunk local who'd wandered too far, but the more I stared at the screen, the more I realized it wasn't moving. just standing there, facing the camera. It had a body, that much I'm sure of, but the proportions were off, like it was trying to mimic a human and got it almost right, but not quite. Shoulders too narrow, arms just a little too long, and the neck. God, the neck was stiff like a mannequin. I watched for a full minute, expecting it to take a step or do something, but it just stood there, dead still. So I toggled the infrared overlay. It didn't give off heat. I called dispatch to see if maybe someone had been working overtime, but no one was supposed to be there past midnight. I switched to camera 5, which covered the same area from another angle. It was gone. No walking, no movement, just not there anymore. Back to camera 6. Still there. I sat up straight. Something was wrong. Either one of the cameras was frozen, or something was messing with the feed. So I grabbed my flashlight and started walking toward the clearing. I took my radio with me but didn't say a word. I wanted to see it with my own eyes before I said anything that could make me look crazy. The walk out there took maybe 5 minutes. By the time I got within sight of the spot, there was nothing. Just gravel, dust, and the frame of a half-built substation. I scanned the area with my flashlight and called out. No response. Not even an echo. I radioed back to the shack. Check camera 6. Dispatch replied, "You're standing in front of it, all clear." I looked around again. Still nothing. I walked back, feeling stupid. I told myself it had to be a glitch, or a weird shadow, maybe a tall piece of equipment. I hadn't noticed. I almost believed that, until the next night. It came back. Same spot. Same time. 3:16 a.m. Standing. Facing the camera. Only this time, it was closer. I didn't go out there. I turned off the shack's interior light and just watched. 30 seconds passed. It didn't move. Then, just as I started to lean forward, it blinked. Slow. Mechanical. Like a reptile. Then the feed glitched. Just a flicker, and it was gone. I checked all the other cameras. Nothing. I sat there in total silence, heart pounding. Didn't sleep when my shift ended. I just kept replaying the footage in my mind. That blank face, those two long arms, the way the eyes blinked like something learning how. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? But I started keeping a log. Every night I'd make note of where and when it showed up, and it did keep showing up. Always on camera 6, always at 3:16, always a little closer. After a week, it had moved almost to the edge of the frame. I finally brought it up to my supervisor. He didn't look surprised, just nodded and told me not to go out there again. He said, and I quote, "Some areas are best left unmonitored. Just do your job and keep the cameras running." That's when I knew this wasn't the first time someone had seen it. The next night, I showed up to work and found camera 6 disconnected, literally unplugged from the hub. No explanation, but at 3:16 a.m., the shack's door rattled. Just once. Single, solid rattle, like someone grabbed the handle from the outside and let go. I jumped out of my chair, grabbed the flashlight, and flung the door open. Nothing. Not even wind. I slammed the door and locked it. Then I turned off the monitors. Sat in the dark for the rest of the shift. That was my final night on that job. I quit the next morning. No 2-week notice. Before I left, I asked the guy covering the day shift if anything weird ever happened out there. He said something that still messes with my head. He said, "You saw it too, huh? They told me it's just a mirage, something about heat and desert air messing with the feed." Then he leaned in and whispered, "But heat waves don't knock on doors."